What truly makes a good life? It's the big question, isn't it? We all seem to chase happiness, success, fulfillment, but often maybe you feel a bit adrift, like you're reacting, not really directing things. So today we're doing a deep dive. We want to give you a really solid, science-backed way to think about planning your life. We're drawing on decades of research here, psychology, sociology, even philosophy.
Yeah, the goal is to help you shift from just experiencing life passively to becoming, well, an active life architect. Intentional.
Exactly. We're pulling together some profound insights. Think of it as a guide to building a life that's not just successful, but resilient and genuinely fulfilling. And this isn't just theory floating around. We're talking practical tools, things you can actually use.
Okay, so where do we start? If we're talking science-backed frameworks for a good life, there's one study that just looms large, right? The Harvard Study of Adult Development. I mean, it's incredible. Started way back in 1938. That's the one. Over 80 years tracking hundreds of people. They gathered just mountains of data, interviews, medical records, everything. It's one of the longest studies of its kind ever.
So after all that time, 80 plus years, what was the big takeaway, the world-changing conclusion?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The single most powerful predictor of long-term health and happiness. It wasn't money,
Right.
not fame, not social class, IQ, genes, not even exercise, surprisingly enough.
Wow. So what was it?
Warm, good relationship.
Relationship.
Yeah, people who stayed closely connected, family, friends, community. They weren't just happier, they were physically healthier, and they actually lived longer.
That really turns a lot of common assumptions on their head, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And get this, something that even surprised the researchers back then. Your satisfaction with your relationships at age 50?
Yeah.
That was a better predictor of your physical health at age 80 than your cholesterol levels were at 50.
No way. Better than cholesterol.
Better than cholesterol levels. It points to something really deep about how relationships work on us biologically. Good relationships seem to act as these powerful stress regulators. You know how stress triggers that fight or flight response?
Sure. Constant low-level stress.
Exactly. But a supportive relationship kind of provides a safe harbor. It helps calm your nervous system down, reduces that chronic inflammation that wears you down over time. And that's why loneliness, the flip side, is so toxic. It basically leaves you stuck in that low-level stress state.
Okay, so Professor Robert Waldinger, who runs the study now, he boils this down, right? What are the key lessons?
He highlights three main things. First, social connection is vital. Loneliness is poison. Simple as that. More connected people are happier, healthier, live longer. Being lonely, especially if you don't want to be, well, that's linked to earlier health decline, brain function dropping off sooner, and shorter lives overall. And crucially, loneliness is subjective. It's how you feel. You can be in a packed room, even in a marriage, and feel deeply isolated if that quality of connection isn't there.
So it's not just about having relationships, is it? It's about the kind of connections we have.
Exactly right. That's the second big lesson. The quality of your close relationships matters much more than the sheer number of friends you have. Think about it. Being in a high-conflict marriage, for example, one without much affection. The study suggests that can actually be worse for your health than getting divorced.
Worse than divorce. Wow.
Yeah, because supportive relationships buffer us against life's difficulties, especially as we get older. They found something really telling with couples in their 80s. On days when they had more physical pain, if they were in a happy partnership, their mood generally stayed positive. But for those in unhappy relationships, physical pain got amplified by their emotional pain.
That's powerful. Okay, physical health, happiness. What about our minds, our brains? Do good relationships protect those too?
They absolutely seem to. That's the third lesson. People who feel they're in secure, trusting relationships, their memories tend to stay sharper for longer.
Really? Even if they argue sometimes?
Yeah, even with arguments. As long as that fundamental trust is there, that feeling that you can really count on the other person, the disagreements don't seem to hurt memory function over time. But for those who felt they couldn't rely on their partners, they showed earlier signs of memory decline.
So, pulling this all together, what does it mean for you listening?
It means you need to think about your social fitness just as seriously as you think about your physical fitness.
Social fitness, I like that.
Investing time and energy in your connections. Partner, family, friends, community. It's arguably one of the most important investments you can make for a long, healthy, and happy life.
Okay, so relationships are foundational, but let's unpack this idea of happiness a bit more. Lots of us chase that feeling, but maybe that's too simple. Is just feeling good day to day the whole picture?
That's a really crucial point. Just chasing fleeting positive emotions can be a bit misleading, you know? That's where Martin Seligman's work in positive psychology comes in. His PERMA model gives a much richer picture of what it means to flourish.
PERMA. Right. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. P is for positive emotion, feeling good day to day, joy, gratitude, hope. E is for engagement, that flow state, getting totally absorbed in something challenging. R is for relationships, feeling connected, loved, supported, which we've just talked so much about.
Connects right back to Harvard.
Exactly. M is for meaning, belonging to or serving something bigger than yourself, your work, faith, community, a cause. This helps us get through tough times. And A is for accomplishment, that sense of mastery, achieving goals, feeling effective.
What's really interesting to me is how Seligman sees these as interconnected, right? It's not just a checklist.
Precisely. That's the revolutionary part. They create an upward spiral. You focus on one, say, finding more meaning in your work, and it can naturally boost your engagement, maybe lead to accomplishment, and even strengthen relationships with colleagues. It's dynamic.
And that ties into Daniel Kahneman's ideas too, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The difference between our experiencing self, how we feel moment to moment, and our remembering self, how we look back on our lives.
Absolutely.
Like climbing a difficult mountain might be tough, even unpleasant for the experiencing self. But the remembering self looks back on that challenge, that accomplishment, that meaning, and cherishes it.
That's a great example. It highlights that a rich life often involves building those meaningful stories for your remembering self, not just chasing constant pleasure for the experiencing self.
So strategically for life planning, this interconnectedness is key. You don't have to fix everything at once.
No, exactly. You can focus on one area that feels like it has leverage for you and trust that it will likely lift the others too.
Okay, so we have relationships as a foundation, PERMA giving us this broader picture of flourishing. What powers the whole process? If these are the pillars, what's the engine?
That's where hope comes in. It's maybe more powerful than people realize.
Hope, as in wishful thinking.
Not at all. We're talking about hope as a cognitive and emotional force. There was a big study from the University of Missouri, looked at over 2,300 people. They found that hope was one of the strongest predictors of life meaning, even stronger than feeling happy or grateful in the moment.
Stronger than happiness for predicting meaning, that's significant.
It really is. It suggests hope isn't just a nice-to-have feeling. It's a vital engine that fuels meaning and helps us navigate adversity.
So how do we cultivate that, make it practical?
Research points to a few concrete ways. Things like actively savoring small, positive moments, really noticing and appreciating them.
Okay.
Finding opportunities even in chaos, there's usually something you can do or learn. Appreciating growth, your own potential, and others. Engaging in nurturing activities, things that grow, like learning a skill, planting a garden, mentoring someone. It's an investment in the future. And remembering impermanence. This too shall pass, right? Knowing things can change helps maintain hope.
So how does this connect back to the actual planning process?
Well, your life planning shouldn't just be a cold, analytical task. It should actively build hope. When you're assessing where you are versus where you want to be, don't just focus on the gaps. Make sure you also acknowledge your strengths, your resources, the things you've already accomplished.
Right, build on past successes.
Exactly. That builds confidence that I can do this feeling. That's the hope that fuels the entire plan.
Okay, this is fascinating stuff. We understand the foundation's relationships, meaning hope, but the big question is, how do we actually apply this? How do we start designing our own unique blueprint?
Right. We need tools. And a great place to start, kind of like getting your bearings, is the Wheel of Life.
The Wheel of Life, I've seen that. It's like a snapshot. Right?
Exactly. Think of it like a doctor's first checkup for your life balance. It gives you this visual overview of how satisfied you are across different important areas, helps you see the big picture.
And what are those typical areas?
Usually around 8. They can vary slightly, but the core ones are things like health and vitality or energy, basically.
Yeah.
Relationships, obviously key. Career, admission your work, your purpose.
Okay.
Financial well-being. Personal and intellectual growth learning, developing yourself. Recreation and joy fun. Hobbies, downtime. Physical environment where you live, work. And community and contribution, your connection to the wider world.
So how does it work? You just rate yourself.
Pretty much. You draw a circle, divide it into 8 pie slices, one for each area. Then on a scale of 0 at the center to 10 at the outer edge, you mark your current level of satisfaction in each slice. 0 is totally unsatisfied, 10 is completely satisfied. Then you connect the dots.
And you end up with this shape. Maybe not a perfect wheel.
Often not. And that's where the real insight begins. You look at that shape.
So what kinds of questions should you ask yourself when looking at your wheel?
First, just your gut feeling. Does it look like a smooth ride or a really bumpy one? Are there big highs and lows? Any surprises? Areas you thought were fine but scored low, or vice versa. Then dig into the highest and lowest scores. Why are they like that? What actions or circumstances led to those scores?
And importantly, what would a 10 actually look like in those low areas? Get specific.
Exactly. But here's maybe the most powerful question. Where's the leverage? If you could improve just one area right now, which one would have the biggest positive ripple effect on the others?
Ah, the leverage points. Like maybe working too much is tanking your health and relationships.
Precisely. So improving health by, say, setting boundaries around work hours could actually boost relationships and maybe even make you more effective in your career. Find that linchpin.
Okay, so the wheel gives the big picture. What if you want to zoom in on one of those areas?
That's where another great tool comes in, the personal SWOT analysis.
SWOT, like businesses use. Strength, weaknesses.
Opportunities, threats, exactly. It's a classic for a reason. Applied personally, it helps you take stock of your internal landscape, your strengths and weaknesses, and the external environment, the opportunities and threats out there.
So S is strength, what you're good at, your skills, resources, internal, positive. W is weaknesses, areas you need to improve. Skill gaps, internal, negative.
Right. O is opportunities, favorable external things, trends, resources you could tap into, positive external. And T is threats, external obstacles, challenges, things working against you, negative external.
And you recommend focusing this SWOT analysis?
Definitely. Don't try to SWOT your whole life at once. You get lost. Pick one or two key areas highlighted by your wheel of life. Let's say career and mission was a low point or a leverage point for you. So you'd ask, what strengths do I have for my career skills, personality traits, past successes? What weaknesses, knowledge gaps, areas where I fall short, tasks I avoid? Then externally, what opportunities exist, industry trends, network connections, company training, maybe unexplored potential in my current role? And what is thwarted? Threats, competitors, technological changes, company instability, external barriers.
And you have to be really honest here, right? Not overly critical, but clear-eyed.
Crucial. Honesty is key. It's not about judgment, it's about accurate assessment for effective planning.
Okay, so you've listed out your SWOT for a specific area. What next? How do you turn that into action?
This is where you can get strategic by combining the quadrants. It's sometimes called a TOWS analysis, looking at the interactions. For instance, SO strategies. How can you use your strengths to take advantage of opportunities? Maybe use your public speaking skills, strength, to lead a new client-facing project. Opportunity, that's an aggressive growth strategy.
Makes sense. What about the others?
ST strategies. How can you use your strengths to minimize threats? If AI automation is a threat, maybe use your strong learning ability, strength, to upskill in AI. That's defensive. WO strategies. How can you overcome weaknesses by taking advantage of opportunities? If data analysis is a weakness, but your company offers training, opportunity, use that to fill the gap. That's an improvement strategy. And WT strategies. How can you minimize weaknesses and avoid threats? If you're weak on detail work and competition is fierce in roles requiring that threat, maybe avoid those roles for now. That's a coactive defense.
So doing that exercise really helps you generate concrete, feasible strategies tailored to your specific situation.
Absolutely. It moves you from just assessment to actionable possibilities.
Okay, so we've assessed our current state with the wheel, inventoried our resources and challenges with SWOT. But where are we actually aiming? What's the destination?
Exactly. You need a North Star. This brings us to clarifying your core values and life vision.
Values first. These are like your internal compass, right? Your fundamental principles.
That's a perfect way to put it. They guide your decisions when you're not sure what to do. Discovering them can involve asking yourself some deep questions. What's truly essential for you to feel authentic? Think about your proudest moments. What values were you honoring then? Who do you deeply admire? And what values do they embody?
You can also look at the flip side, right? What makes you really angry or frustrated?
Yes, negative exploration is powerful. What do you absolutely detest seeing in the world or in others? That often reveals what you value most highly. What principle was violated when you felt disappointed? Knowing your core values like, say, creativity, autonomy, connection, security, builds a super efficient personal decision-making system. Well, imagine choosing between two jobs. Job A, High pay, long hours, lots of bureaucracy. Job B, slightly lower pay, more autonomy, chance to learn new things. If autonomy and growth are top values for you, the choice becomes much clearer, doesn't it? It cuts through the noise.
Yeah, it simplifies things dramatically. Okay, so values are the compass. What about the life vision?
The vision is the destination picture painted by your values. It's a vivid, compelling, maybe even emotional description of your ideal future, say 5 or 10 years out.
So you really try to imagine it,
Okay.
like a future rehearsal.
Exactly. Close your eyes. What does your ideal day look like? Where are you living? What kind of work are you doing? Who are you spending time with? How do you feel energized, calm, connected? The more vivid, the more motivating it is.
And then you bring it all together, values and vision.
You can distill it into a concise personal mission statement, your personal North Star commitment. It might be something like, to use my creativity and compassion to build strong communities and foster lifelong learning. It combines who you want to be, values, with what you want to do, vision.
Okay, wow. So we've done the deep work. Understanding the why from Harvard and PERMA, assessing the what with the wheel and SWOT, and clarifying the where with values and vision. Now, the how. How do we build the actual structure, draw up the plan?
Right. This is where the rubber meets the road. We need to turn those aspirations into concrete actions. And the classic, incredibly effective tool for this is setting SMART goals.
SMART. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. We heard a lot, but maybe we don't always apply it rigorously.
That's often the case. Let's break it down quickly.
Yeah.
Specific. Be crystal clear. Not get healthier, but walk briskly for 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Answer the who, what, where, when, why. Measurable. How will you track progress? How will you know when you've succeeded? Run faster isn't measurable. Run a 5K in under 30 minutes is.
Achievable. Needs to be realistic, given your current resources and constraints. Stretching, yes, but not impossible. Setting yourself up for failure kills motivation.
Absolutely. Relevant. This is the crucial one, I think. Does this goal actually matter to you? Does it align with your core values and life vision that we just talked about?
Ah, the values check.
Yes. So many goals fail, like New Year's resolutions, because they're things we feel we should do or someone else wants us to do, but they don't actually connect to our deeper desires or vision. If your goal isn't relevant, your motivation will eventually fade.
So will achieving this actually move me towards the life I want to build?
Exactly. And finally, time-bound. Give yourself a deadline. Learn Spanish is vague. Achieve conversational fluency in Spanish by my trip next June creates focus and urgency.
And within SMART goals, you often talk about different types of goals.
Right. It's useful to distinguish between outcome goals and process goals. Outcome goals are the final result you want, like lose 10 pounds. The problem is outcomes aren't always fully in your control.
Right. Your body might react differently. Life happens.
Exactly. Process goals, on the other hand, are the specific actions you control that lead towards the outcome, like eat 5 servings of vegetables per day or go to the gym 3 times a week. Focusing on nailing the process goals gives you a greater sense of control and builds momentum, even if the outcome takes time.
Okay, so we have our relevant SMART goals, focusing on the process, but a goal on paper isn't enough, is it? How do we actually execute? This is where things often fall apart.
The intention-action gap, it's huge. You need a system for execution. The core strategy here is goal decomposition.
Breaking it down.
Precisely. Take a big, potentially overwhelming goal, say an annual goal like write and publish my first ebook. That sounds massive.
Yeah, daunting.
But break it down. Annual. Publish 50,000-word ebook by December 31st. Okay? Quarterly. Q1 is research and outline. Q2 is write the first draft, say 40,000 words. Q3 is revise and edit. Q4 is design and launch.
Getting smaller.
Monthly. Within Q2. Write about 13,000 words per month. Weekly. Write about 3,300 words per week. Daily. Okay, that's maybe 600, 700 words a day, 5 days a week. Suddenly, that massive goal becomes a manageable daily task, maybe an hour or two of focused work.
That makes it feel so much more achievable. It lowers that psychological barrier.
Hugely. And it gives you constant small wins, which fuels motivation. You're not waiting a year for validation. You get it every day you hit your word count.
Beyond breaking it down, are there specific techniques to help with the actual doing, sticking to it day after day?
Yes. And the best ones focus on designing your system and environment, rather than just relying on willpower, which we know is finite.
Like what?
Time blocking is a big one. Don't just have a to-do list. Schedule when you'll do your important tasks. Put it in your calendar like a meeting. Monday, 9:10 a.m. Work on ebook chapter 1. Make it non-negotiable.
I like that. Protect the time.
And David Allen's 2-minute rule is fantastic for beating procrastination. 2 parts. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, just do it immediately. Don't even put it on a list.
Get it out of the way.
Yeah. And for bigger tasks you're dreading, the rule is just commit to starting for 2 minutes. Often, just starting is the hardest part. Open the document, write 1 sentence. You trick yourself into beginning.
The Pomodoro technique is another popular one, right? Focus bursts.
Yes, 25 minutes of focused work, then a 5-minute break. Repeat a few times, then take a longer break. It helps maintain concentration and prevents burnout. And finally, environment design. Be proactive. If you need to focus, put your phone in another room or use app blockers. If you want to eat healthier, don't keep junk food in the house. Make healthy snacks the easiest option.
So you're making the desired behavior the path of least resistance?
Exactly. It's about being smart with your setup, not just trying harder. Less willpower needed.
Okay, so SMART goals, decomposition, execution systems. It sounds like a solid plan, but we all know life doesn't always go according to plan, right? Curveballs happen.
That's the absolute truth. No blueprint is perfect because reality is messy. So the key isn't just having a good plan. It's knowing how to adapt when things go sideways.
And often the first hurdle isn't even external, is it? It's internal resistance, fear, procrastination.
Oh, absolutely. Procrastination, for example. We often think of it as laziness, but psychologists increasingly see it as an emotional regulation strategy.
Emotional regulation, how so?
When a task makes us feel uncomfortable, maybe it's boring, difficult, or brings up fears of failure, procrastination is a way to temporarily escape that uncomfortable feeling by doing something more pleasant, like scrolling social media. It's a short-term mood fix.
That makes sense. And what about fear? Fear of the unknown.
That's a huge one. You might be unhappy where you are, say in a job you dislike, but it's familiar unhappiness. Making a change means stepping into uncertainty, the unknown life desert. That fear can be paralyzing, making us stick with the devil we know. Often it comes from this illusion that we need total control, which we never have.
So how do we overcome these internal blocks? We can't just wish them away.
No, you need smart strategies. First, when you feel resistance, like procrastination, turn that feeling into a signal. Ask why. What's the underlying emotion? Fear of failure. Lack of clarity on the next step. Does the task feel meaningless or misaligned with your values? Understanding the why helps you address the root cause, not just the symptom.
So get curious instead of critical.
Exactly. Second, lower the activation barrier. Use that 2-minute rule again. Just start and make the first step ridiculously small. Third, prepare for setbacks mentally using implementation intentions.
The if-then planning.
Right. If I feel too tired to go to the gym after work, then I will do 15 minutes of stretching at home instead. It pre-plans your response to obstacles. And finally, practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself like you would a friend who's struggling. Learn from the setback. Don't beat yourself up. Criticism rarely motivates long-term.
Okay, handling internal resistance. What about building that general ability to bounce back from any challenge? Resilience.
Yes, psychological resilience. And the key insight here is that it's not some fixed trait you're born with. It's a skill, or rather a set of skills, that can absolutely be learned and cultivated over time. It's like emotional muscle.
Like elastic grassland you mentioned. Bends, but bounces back.
That's the idea. It's about adapting, recovering, maybe even growing stronger through adversity.
So what are some evidence-based ways to build that resilience muscle?
Several things. Cognitive reframing is a big one. It's about changing how you interpret events, because your interpretation drives your feelings. This involves things like normalizing reactions, realizing it's okay and normal to feel anxious or sad during a crisis, finding meaning or growth, asking, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger or wiser? And even changing your language patterns, shifting from I should to I can, or I choose to, or reframing a problem as a challenge or opportunity.
Subtle shifts, but they can change your perspective. What else?
Emotional regulation skills. The ability to stay relatively calm and clear-headed under pressure. Techniques like affect labeling, simply naming the emotion you're feeling, I'm feeling anxious right now, can actually reduce its intensity.
Just naming it helps.
Often, yes. Also, simple breathing exercises like the 4-7-8 breath, inhale 4, hold 7, exhale 8, can quickly calm your nervous system. And mindfulness, observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment, which creates space before you react.
Okay, reframing thoughts, regulating emotions.
Also, consciously leveraging your strengths. Remember that SWOT analysis. When facing a challenge, intentionally think, which of my strengths can help me navigate this? Are you a good communicator? Use that to seek support. Are you analytical? Use that to break down the problem. And Circling right back to the beginning, nurturing your support systems. The Harvard study proved it. Good relationships are perhaps the most powerful buffer against stress and adversity. Lean on trusted people. Don't try to tough it out alone.
And underlying all of this resilience work,
Self-awareness. It's the foundation. You can't reframe a thought you don't notice, regulate an emotion you don't recognize, or leverage a strength you haven't identified. Practices like journaling, meditation, or simply regular self-reflection build that crucial awareness.
okay, so resilience helps us handle the bumps. But what about the plan itself? You said earlier maybe the biggest mistake is treating it like it's set in stone.
Absolutely. That's probably the most fatal error. Your life plan isn't a static monument. It's a living, breathing guide. The ultimate wisdom is seeing it as something that needs regular updates and adjustments.
Because life changes, you change, the world changes.
Precisely. So, dynamic planning. Review and adjustment isn't optional. It's essential for staying on track, maintaining motivation, and learning from experience. Without review, your plan becomes irrelevant fast.
So how often should people be reviewing and adjusting? What's practical?
A multi-layered approach works well. First, a quick weekly review, maybe 15, 30 minutes. Look back. What went well? What obstacles came up? What are the key priorities for the next week? Keep it tactical.
Okay, weekly check-in.
Then, a quarterly review. This is deeper, maybe 2-3 hours. Pull out your bigger goals, like those SMART goals. How's the progress? Are they still relevant? Still aligned with your values and vision? What needs to shift for the next quarter?
More strategic.
Right. And finally, an annual review. Set aside maybe a half day or even a full day. This is the comprehensive overhaul. Look back at the whole year. Achievements, major lessons learned. Revisit your wheel of life, your values, your vision. Are they still accurate? Then set your main focus areas and big goals for the year ahead.
Weekly, quarterly, annual. Seems like a good rhythm. What principles should guide these reviews?
A few key things. Be honest with the data. Look at metrics, results, not just how you feel about your progress. Learn from failures. Don't just self-blame. Analyze why something didn't work. Was the goal unrealistic? Did your circumstances change? Was the strategy flawed? Extract the lesson. Celebrate progress. Acknowledge every step forward, big or small. This reinforces positive actions and keeps motivation high. And maybe most importantly, maintain flexibility. Be willing to adjust, pivot, even abandon goals or plans if they no longer serve you or align with your values as life evolves. Your plan is a tool for you, not the other way around.
So mastering life planning isn't really about creating one perfect plan, is it?
Not at all. It's about building a lifelong process, a skill set, continuous self-reflection, clarifying what truly matters to you, setting intentional goals, executing systematically, and then crucially reviewing and adapting dynamically along the way.
Okay, let's try to wrap this up. If you had to distill the core message from our deep dive today, it seems like a good life isn't some checklist you tick off. It's more like a conscious, ongoing construction project.
That's a great way to put it.
And the key pillars we've identified are relationships as that absolute bedrock foundation, meaning and values as your guiding North Star, using systems and tools like SMART goals and review processes as your reliable construction equipment, developing resilience as the mindset to handle unexpected weather, and finding satisfaction in the process itself, not just the final destination.
Beautifully summarized. This deep dive really offers a complete architecture, a set of blueprints and tools. Your journey, for everyone listening, is to pick up those tools and start building your unique life temple, one that's not just strong and functional, but beautiful and deeply meaningful to you.
So a final thought for you to take away from all this. Given everything we've unpacked today, what's one small, maybe even 2-minute action you could take right now, today, to just begin or continue building that life masterpiece, knowing that even the tiniest steps consistently taken contribute to that grand vision? And maybe, just maybe, start by thinking about your social fitness. Who could you connect with today?